So, my guest today is Tim Wagner, and he is in South Africa. I'm in Vancouver, Canada. I'm not in Vancouver, but I'm close to Vancouver, Canada. And my name is Dawna Jones, for those of you that don't know me. Today, the conversation is about health. This channel has been about emotional health. It is kind of like the basis for people to have an agency around what's going on in the world, how to stay well, even when the world around you is making no sense at all. So, what are the steps involved? So, Tim has some really interesting work that he is going to share with us. But before that, Tim is going to give us a little bit of a start because getting on board with Substack was a bit of a ride. And for both of us, this is new for me, this particular platform for video. So, Tim, would you kindly, take it away?
Dawna, appreciate it. Thanks so much for the invitation, and for everybody who's listening in, either live or on the recordings, welcome. So one of the things, especially in the corporate world, that I'm known for is breathwork alchemy. I'm known as a breathwork alchemist. What does that mean? I use the power of breathwork to take that heavy stress, anxiety, frustration out of you and turn it into something light and gold and focused, which is easy to live. That's all that alchemy is. It's the change of state. So what I love to do, first of all, is to help everybody just to get centered and focused on your time that you're committing to yourself here in this beautiful conversation that we're having today, and forget about the noise. But how do you forget about the noise when your brain is going chirp, 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 telling you things all the time, right? Well, there's a breathing exercise we're going to do called the feather breath. I love this one because it always makes me laugh as well. So this is the way that you do it. You're going to follow on. You're going to play on. This is a participation, not me just sort of splurging words out to you. So what you're going to do is take your right hand, thumb and forefinger, and hold it 10 centimeters in front of your nose. Pretend that you're holding a feather in it. And what you're going to be doing is all mouth breathing in and out your mouth. You're going to blow that and pretend you're holding that feather's floating up. You're going to be doing this for 30 seconds. It's going to look something like this: deep belly breaths and short and sharp. So you're going to let go of your feather when I tell you to, and you're going to blow. You're going to keep that feather floating up, and then I'll tell you why we do this. So,
Cool.
Hands up, right hand in front of your nose, 10 centimeters away. What feather color have you got? Is it a duck feather? Is it like mine is a flamingo feather? What feather do you have? Is it white, beautiful white? Now, I'm going to count you 3, 2, 1. You let your air out and you're going to blow this feather. And 3, 2, 1. Let it go and blow. Pretend that feather's floating up and it's going to not fly away. It's not dropping down.
I love it.
Go on, daughter. Come on.
I'm running out of puff.
Your feather's flown away somewhere. Come on, keep going. 10 seconds.
Chicken feather in my case. I think you've got an advantage with a flamingo feather.
Now what I want you to do is take a deep breath in. Lift your arms. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. And let it out in a big sigh.
Beautiful.
How do you feel?
Lovely, thank you. I was just telling to Karen and Elena and anybody else watching this. I know I just finished coming in from dealing with chickens and horses, and so they're, the whole thing around that is just get them all out, get them safe, make sure they're safe, and it's snowing, so make sure they're dry. They're, and and then the start for Substack for Tim was a little rough. So this kind of practice, I think, comes in very handy just to recenter, does it not?
Recenter. Yeah. Empty the stale in your lungs. You've calmed your entire system down. And suddenly when you do this for 30 seconds, all that noise stops.
Yeah.
And now, and that's why I always do this when I'm doing a talk, whether it's live or in personal coaching, now I've got your attention, right?
Right.
And that's the magic and understanding of how to use conscious connected breathing in just 30 seconds to change your entire metaphysical state.
Yeah. Beautiful. Now, when you and I talked the first time, you told, because the question always is, how did you get here? You were in corporate and you're here doing regenerative health, which is understandable in the context of leaving corporate and needing time to kind of recalibrate and figure out now what. But how you got here is intriguing because it speaks to the agency that people have to find solutions when it appears there are none. Would you kindly tell how you ended up here in this place of working in regenerative health?
Oh, that's beautiful. Thanks. So the journey was corporate for 27 years. And then in 2018, hitting that point of burning out. And perhaps people, I think around the world, it is an epidemic. The World Health Organization calls it that. I don't listen to what they say often, but this time I do, when they say that it is an epidemic. In fact, the statistics have shown from Gallup that 72% of people in corporate world experience some form of burnout at some point. So it is a massive issue. Now, I was a statistic back in 2018. I wasn't able to focus on my job. My relationship with my wife was in tatters. With my teenage son, it just was non-existent. When I was at home and I wasn't working, my mind was still at work. So it was only arguments and fighting. But at work, it was arguments and fighting, and I could no longer see the solutions to the problems. So back then, I didn't know what burnout was. I didn't understand it. I just knew that if I stayed there, I was either going to die, I was going to kill somebody, or worse, I was going to lose my family. It was going to end divorce. How I'm still married now, I've got no idea, but same wife, not married, but to a different place. Let's just clarify.
Glad you qualified that.
Right, it's got to qualify.
Yeah.
And I was at one of those statistics called the quiet quitter, where I left. I walked out, I quit. One of the easiest decisions to make, and yet the most difficult at the same time, to walk out on a 27 years career in hospitality without really knowing who I am, why I'm here, where am I going, what I'm going to do. And so the journey began to try and uncover this true nature, this authentic person, and also how come after so many years could I no longer handle the stresses of life? Because let's be honest, the world doesn't really change very much. The government may change, but it's still going to be stressed government. The politics is still going to be politics. The economy is still going to be in tatters. It's been in tatters for decades. You go back and they're always telling you, oh, it's a problem. Oh, it always has been and always will be. It depends on who you talk to. You're always going to have family drama. You're always going to have issues outside your control. If you're running your own business or you've got a job, you've always got employees. You've always got a boss and shareholders. So the world outside doesn't change. So I had to ask myself the question, what if the world doesn't change? What changed in me?
Beautiful.
It had to have been me that changed. And one of the big things that I learned over many years as I started to work with other high-functioning corporate people and also a lot of entrepreneurs is that there was this disconnect. The disconnect between my authentic self, who I am, as in my innate authentic nature. Not here, down here, heartfelt. And this person that I was living, the stressed existence, this fight, fear, fight, flight, permanently arguing, work harder, push harder, got to drive more, got to hit the targets, got to fight, do this, do that. And this was where I was living, but my authentic nature was here. And the more and more and more, and the harder you work, the further you become distant from your authentic self. Until one day that elastic snaps. And when it snaps, that's burnout. And it happens because you're so distant from your authentic nature. Imagine you're working on something and you're in that zone. You know the one I'm talking about where everything flows. Flow state, it's also known.
Yeah.
Your access to higher self, to God, Allah, Buddha, Jesus, whoever you go to fill your spiritual cup, and you feel connected and everything goes. There's no stress. There's no anxiety. But in that moment where you're not connected and things are going wrong, how it just spirals because your stress goes up, your anxiety rises, and then you're sitting in the state for a long period of time over and over and over and over again. That's where you get the disconnect.
Yeah.
So I was researching this and doing a lot of studies. And during this process, starting to work with high-functioning people, I felt that there was something else that was needed to help people break outside of this, call it the hamster wheel that we all run on. the brain's going, no one's sleeping, we're stressed, we're anxious, we're not eating, we're having too much coffee, we're hitting the bottle in the evening to just relax, we're taking our work pressure home, we're canceling home engagements because of work. So family becomes second. Why are we doing business? For our family, but suddenly they don't become as important, and we don't know how to get out of this. And while I'm going through this, breathwork discovered me. Now, go ahead, Dawna.
Well, it's interesting because I have a number of colleagues and friends who do breath work, and it's such a simple solution in so many ways. And yet it's the one that's so easy to overlook. You go, seriously, breath work? You got to be kidding me. And yet there it is. It's quite powerful. So tell us
That's it.
more.
So I remember, I will never forget this. I remember the very first article that I read. It was by complete default. I wasn't looking for breath work. I didn't know breath work as a modality existed. I'm like, I read it. I thought, I'm 51. I know how to breathe. I've got 51 years of experience. No, wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the very first thing that I read, you're stressed and anxious, shut your mouth, breathe through your nose. It acts as a natural tranquilizer to your nervous system, will calm you in stressful situations. And I'm reading this and I'm going, that is so profound. In all the coaching, all the training, all the education I've done, the courses I've been on, no one has taught me how to regulate my nervous system by breathing through my nose. Why does this work? How does it work? Could it be so simple? And those are the questions that led me on this very interesting journey from being a strategic, problem-solving realist in the corporate world to being connected and understanding everything is flow and everything is energy. And we've got this most innate, our bodies have got this innate ability to heal, to regenerate, to create from within when we know how to allow it.
It's the most natural technology available to us. I mean, the first inclination is, oh, get a drug for that or whatever. And yet we've got this on hand 24/7. For me, I mean, I know in my journey, I breathe very shallowly and I noticed that, but I didn't notice it. It was sort of one of those things. Yeah, right. You don't really realize that I wasn't, fully in my body all the time and not even some of the time, especially if I was doing a lot of head work. And it would show up physically by running into things or clanging dishes. I wasn't grounded. It showed up in these little, signals, physiological signals. And I thought, wow. And I mean, I had a massive fall behind Davos after the World Economic Forum, skiing with my left shoulder. I almost ripped the joint right out. But I realized afterwards, I'd been in my head all week at the World Economic Forum. I'm a highly sensitive person. And skiing was a good idea, but I still wasn't grounded. I needed about 4 days of that before I would have been grounded. So to me, this is the whole connection between grounding, breath work, being in your body, bien incarné, as they say in French, well incarnated, but staying that way during a rough period of what's going on around and what's going on within. So we're in those spaces now in the world. Please tell me about your son's journey, because this, I think, gives a lot of people hope for things that seem impossible at the time until you hope and probe it.
Yeah. So everything in life that we end up by having the greatest impact in helping others, is it not because of your own personal journey? Then it's authentic. What I share and teach and coach and speak on is lived journey. This is my journey. And it became extremely personal to me when, at the age of 30, last year, January, my son had to move back home. The reason he had to move back home is because he was diagnosed 7 years ago with type 1 diabetes. Now, I've come to learn a lot about diabetes living with him, and I feel that it's one of the most misunderstood dis-eases that there is. A dis-ease is where you are. A dis is out of ease or comfort or balance, where the body's gone out of whack, out of synchronicity for whatever reason. And he became diabetic absolutely nothing to do with for himself. So type 1, very different from type 2, which is typically linked to somebody who's got a very poor diet, no exercise, a lot of sugar, a lot of processed foods, typically can lead to type 2 diabetes, which you change your lifestyle, you can reverse. Type 1 is a little bit more difficult. It is curable, but it's a little bit more different process. But after 7 years of high functioning, Nick, my son, used to be high functioning. He left home at the age of 18 to travel the world. He went to America. He went all over the world. But at the age of 23, he had to move back home because his body crashed when he was diagnosed with diabetes. And we didn't know what to do. He couldn't work. He had neuropathy and his feet were just painful. He couldn't sleep. His ache and pain in his jaw because of his body being out of balance. His pancreas was not working at all. So even insulin was not helping. He would spike, his sugar levels would hit. If anybody knows diabetes, it would hit up to 21, and it needs to be 7 or 8 maximum. It would drop to 1 while he was sleeping, and he'd slide into a diabetic coma, and he wouldn't even know.
Well,
6 diabetic comas in 6 years. And so in January, he moved home with us, and we had no idea what to do. I'm a strategist. So I said, I'm going to figure this out. I had my pen, my paper. I said, I'm going to watch how much you eat, what you're drinking, how you're sleeping, what exercise you do, what you move. And I'm going to find this pattern. You know what? No pattern. No explanation. I'd wake up at 4 a.m. and I'd go into his bedroom to see if he was still alive. You know how that feels? You're a parent that you don't know whether you're scared when you go to bed because you think, okay, he's stable now, but what may happen at night? Do I put an alarm on every 2 hours to go and check on him to catch it?
Yeah.
And it was through the kindness of a friend of mine who introduced me to regenerative health using stem cell activating patches, which is called phototherapy, or using phototherapy, which is your own body's light. And it's a technology company. It's been around for years. And he introduced me to this, which helps the body's energy flow balance. Not a cure, but a balance in body. And we started to introduce these protocols. Now, the key thing for Nick, because he'd been in and out of hospital for so long and he'd been vaccinated in America, which was the huge cause of him getting diabetes. This is pre the pandemic, pre-COVID, nothing to do with that. He had a lot of metals and chemicals and issues within his body that needed to naturally detox. And a lot of people can be a little bit concerned about detox because you can feel worse before you feel better. But it's like, if you're in the right state, your body needs to cleanse itself and find a new norm. It's so used to dealing with chemicals and drugs that you've been taking, and it's been battling and fighting them for so long, if you are on any chemicals, that it's when it starts shedding it, it goes, whoa, what's going on here? And it's like an army going on the side. The Navy's fighting and the armed forces are going and the Secret Service is going and they're all fighting around to try and find, but how do we all work together? That's a detox. You've got to go through it. So he went through there. And after 7 weeks, he came to me one day and I'll never forget. He walked into my office and he said, Dad, feels like I've got hope again. Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
7 years. It was like having a disabled kid at home. Well, young man who's 30 there.
Yeah.
He's now been working for the last 5 months. His sugars are stable. He sits at about 8, 9, balances like this. How? Because technology was able to come up with something that helps the body to naturally regulate. Powerful. So here's what happened next. Because now I'm looking at my son, I'm going, whoa, what is going on here? I've got my son back. Now he's picking on me again. Okay. Great. He's not, because his personality's coming back. He's got energy and he can, and whoa. I introduced it to my wife, who was going through a horrible menopause and a lot of depression because mom can't do anything to help her son. What happens? Mom breaks down, right?
Yeah.
Breaks down. Mom's hormones start to balance naturally. No chemicals, pills, or potions. I'm not a believer in that. Time and a place, yes, but not in these circumstances. Her menopause slows down, meaning that last winter, I got to sleep. Yeah, me.
There's a side effect, a side benefit to helping others help themselves.
Side benefit to the wife not having hot flushes in the middle of winter and having the fan on and the windows open and no duvet. I got to sleep because she was more balanced. So there we go. Put. And so the journey has started to evolve a lot more in understanding that, you know what, Dawna? I'm here now to help share a message that there is a way that people can take back ownership and back control of their own health and well-being outside of being reliant on pharmaceuticals. And that's a key thing. I'm not going to bash the drug pushers. There's a time and a place. I get it, but it's not a permanent thing. Because what we need to look at is how to activate our body's own innate ability to regenerate itself, recreating its own healthy stem cells so that you can live a fuller life and not be reliant on a pill which masks a problem and doesn't resolve the underlying cause.
Beautiful. I love it. And I'm very grateful to you for persevering with that, because those are the inspirations. When a loved one is sick, those are the inspirations. Those are the ones that call out a much deeper inspirational investment in finding a solution, I think. And so hence we're not so inclined to, at least in my experience of recovering from a bunch of weird stuff, you're not so inclined to live it down a very narrow track. It's, and you're also not inclined to go either or. I mean, bodies are complex systems. They respond to and. So you do breath work and good diet. In other words, there's a combination of factors. You need multiple solutions to help and support the whole nervous system. And all of that together can make a radical difference, which it obviously has in your case. So, and some people, if they're sensitive, like I'm a highly sensitive individual, if you're highly sensitive, you cannot take those chemicals. Much as you think people say, well, you've got to take, if you do, you're out. I mean, you are out. So just a more recent thing for me was I had an anesthetic. When I did that great fall on the Davos mountain, and this eye crashed about 2 weeks later, the retinal started to detach. And so I was in Alberta, and then I came back to BC, went in, and they put me in surgery the next morning, which was terrifying. But they used, anesthetic. It took 6 weeks to climb out of that brain fog. People around me are 2 days. It's like, what the heck? I didn't get that. So it is, it's very unique to our own physiology and our energy systems and this injury and all that kind of stuff.
And what a lot of people don't realize is when you have a surgery, that anesthetic stays in your system for up to 2 years.
That doesn't
and
surprise
a huge amount of science and research being done around people who have had surgery and then within the following 3, 6, 9, 12 months got extremely ill with something.
Yeah.
Happened to my wife when she had knee surgery many, many, many years ago. I didn't know about breathwork. I'm going back to 2004, I think, knee surgery. And she got septicemia about 3 months afterwards. The only place that she could have ever got septicemia was in that hospital.
Yeah.
But her body was so weak because of anesthetic. And I didn't understand about all these things back then as I do now.
Yeah.
But you need to detox all of that stuff, which stays inside your body. And it can be something, I'll share a quick story with you, for helping other people who are very new to this arena like I was. I'm still a student of this. I'm just sharing what I've learned in a very short period of time. I'm not a doctor, psychiatrist, psychologist. I'm the guy with a family who's got a business in health and well-being going, whoa, hang on a second, there's more to this. And one of the ladies that I work with in my business is, she does live blood analysis. Have you ever had a live blood analysis done?
No, but I'm thinking of doing it. Yeah.
Fascinating. Absolutely. Very simple. They prick. Oh, hang on. There we go. Very simple. They prick your finger, take your blood, and under the microscope in front of you on a big screen, you get to see your blood live. And because they've studied this and they know, she has a look at your blood and can tell you exactly what you're missing in your body just by having a look at your blood. And zooming in can see all these amazing different things. Now, I've said I don't do chemicals. Well, this is now a year ago. I'm just starting on this whole regenerative health thing. I was doing a talk to a company. It was an accounting firm. I was doing some training and on burnout prevention, how to reverse the silent slide to burnout, to their team of accountants, 45 accountants. So I had a whole day session with them. And then the following morning, I was doing a keynote to their top clients of 150 people. And I got a head cold. I don't no idea. It was like, okay, I don't know what. I woke up the morning that I was flying and I woke up and my nose was stuffy and like, what's going on? What? So I took this, I had Advils because it's the only thing I knew that could clear my nasal passages. So I'm not standing there on stage or coaching,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
And so I took two of these.
Uh-oh.
Did the training session, met this lady, her name's Mariki, met her that afternoon. I only had 2 pills, all right? They say you take 2 every 4 hours of this. That's all I took because I don't want to do it, but I took it before the session and it dried my nose up enough that I could do the session. I went to do the live blood analysis and she's looking at my blood and she's going, Tim, you are severely dehydrated. And I said, that's impossible. I drink water. I'm very, very clear on my 2 liters of water a day minimum, added because I was flying. I sip it ongoing. And I said, well, look, I took 2 Advils in the morning. And she said, that's what it is. And she zoomed in and she said, you see this line? And I said, yeah. She says, that's the chemicals in your body.
Well,
My red blood cells had dehydrated and they looked like squashed marshmallows.
interesting.
2 Advil over the counter, no subscription, nothing heavy duty. And she says, that'll stay in your body for up to, what did she say? About 4 or 5 days. I said, you have to be joking. My red blood cells became dehydrated from an over-the-counter, non-script pill just to help dry your nose. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which suggests your immune system's compromised right off the top. Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
Stop that. Red blood cells happy. Everything's sorted out. But we underestimate what that pain pill does when you've got a headache. Oh, I got a headache, got a migraine, Panado, Microdol. You underestimate what actually goes on in your body and how long it stays there for, and the damage if you're doing it continuously without looking and going, but hold on a second. Why am I always getting headaches? What's the underlying cause? Because the headache is merely a representation that something internally is out of balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
You take a pill which masks the symptom, treats the symptom, masks the cause, and you're not going to start asking. So this is an extremely huge topic. I mean, have a look at the news and what's going on in America at the moment with what's going on there with all of the vaccines and all of this and healthy eating. Wow. How badly we need to pay attention to what we are doing to us and question everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well said. I'm going to do a radical shift in perspective, if you don't mind. Just for fun. When you look at burnout in corporations and just what's going on in the corporate world, the layoffs and everything else, what do you see in terms, like how can the approaches that you've invested in, the understanding and the knowledge that you've gained now over time and lots of experimentation, which a lot of it is, at least for me it is, how can this inform corporate health and well-being, do you think?
Wow. That's quite a deep question. It's very long because it goes to the whole psychology of the business. When you're dealing with psychological safety and employee well-being in the workspace. So when I've done a lot of work in the corporates, it's at the CEO exco level. Everything from up flows down. I'm not too sure about where you are in the US, but typically there's a general scenario around the world that it needs to be a change in states in what's the wording I'm looking for here? Toxic work environments.
Mm-hmm.
It started from the top and filters down. And it's that toxicity which filters down, which puts people into a state of unease, discomfort, that feeling of the Sunday night feeling where you're going, crap, I'm going to work tomorrow morning. You may enjoy the work, but you don't enjoy the work environment. And where it's driven, and I'm so pleased you brought up things like the layoffs with the economy, the CEOs, the excos, the shareholders, they're all looking at the bottom line, right? Of course they are, to the demise of everybody else. So they're driving this down, and the expectation that, especially management level, to be available all the time, take work at home, working on weekends, you're working on your holidays, we've got deadlines. And it becomes sort of this unwritten rule in the workspace that there's an expectation that you're going to be present and available all the time. Why? Because the exco, your bosses, they are.
Mm.
And when that type of toxicity filters down, there becomes this unwritten rule in the workspace. And that's when things start to break down. And people aren't taking their lunch breaks. They're not eating proper diets. They're eating at their workspace. They're taking work home. And all those things, some of them I mentioned earlier on. There was a lot of research done by Harvard University. Professor Kibble, I think it was. No, Kibble was at Duke, where Harvard University did a lot of research around what is creating so much of the burnout in workspaces. And they focused on the medical industry, on doctors and nurses, some of the most overworked people that are necessary to be focusing in their response for people's lives. I was in hospitality. Screw up the steak order, big deal. You're a doctor. Screw up that person that you've got under the knife.
Very big deal.
Very big deal. So they studied these medical people over, I think it was 2 decades, to try and see what patterns there are. And this is exactly what they started to identify, where they could say, we can see, due to the way that people are feeling and acting today, if they're going to burn out in 12 months. So then teaching people, what are the signs? How can you identify in your colleagues? Because here's the key thing. If you are in a state of high anxiety and on the way to burnout, you will not be able to identify it in your coworkers, your team, your subordinates. Your brain is not going to go there. You're not going to see it because you're running permanently in fear, fight, flight.
Yeah, that makes sense. Biologically, that makes perfect sense. I mean, yeah, you've got a limited amount of energy, and the question is, where is it going to go? And it's going to go to maintaining your well-being before it's going to go to continuing to scan. You have to have a pretty clear head to be able to scan the situation and pick up signals and markers of something coming up, something emergent. And if you don't have that, I mean, I've certainly learned that working with horses more recently, where if my head goes out there and there's a lot of chatter going on up here, I miss all the signals from them, and it's not a good result. so they really teach you to be very present. You've got to be totally present with them.
Totally present. So that's where you take all the exco to go to the horses, and you get them to spend time, because the horses, aren't they amazingly intuitive?
They are.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. They'll know if you're not focused and you're not present.
Yeah.
Very, very true.
Something you've raised with the hospital example, I can't remember where I read this, maybe in the book called Zoology or something like that. But anyway, it was the point that a lot of first responders and doctors in medical, their breakout rooms have junk food in them. And so if for some reason they've decided that stuff that isn't going to really support them physically or physiologically.
They need such a quick and instant kick. It's that caffeine, the donuts, the sugars gives them the spike, but then after the spike, you get the massive crash.
Yes, yeah. Not doing any favor.
Yeah. So it's one of the go-to things that when you're stressed or anxious, what do? You stress eat. What do you stress eat? Lettuce, carrots, cucumber? Good steak? No. Chocolate, ice cream, chips, the takeaway, the McDonald's.
Yeah. So I'm watching the chat and seeing if anybody has any questions, and that for Tim on this conversation, because we can do that. We've got a small group here, and then there'll be other questions, I know, when it's published. So if you do have any questions, just pop them in the chat, and I'll be watching for them. Tim, so we talked about the corporate health, and it's a whole epigenetic thing as well. It's whatever the environment is created in there is what holds the space for health and well-being on the outside and the inside, as it turns out. Is there, I mean, this is sort of a question and a comment at the same time. In one of the organizations I worked with, and that was about 12 years of the teaching, facilitation, training, leadership development, a whole bunch of stuff. We put in, we put a room called a meditation room. It was in actually the head of the leadership center put it put up this meditation room. And the idea was if you needed time out for this group, I think it was about 600 people that were in this training over 11 years. If you needed a timeout, you knew you could go there and just go in and recenter and just be still and get a grip, and then come out again. And of course, what happened is the organization got rid of that because they went back to technical training, got rid of all the leadership development and pedaled backwards as quickly as they possibly could. Yeah. What is it that takes, in your observation, what is it that takes, like we're talking about connecting dots here between health and well-being and healthy organizations? Healthy people equal healthy organizations, at least they do in my world. But if you've got an organization that's sick, with their people are sick, how do we, any thoughts on how you connect those dots? Because they're pretty obvious to anybody that's a pattern spotter, that's comfortable and used to spotting patterns. It's really obvious, but not so obvious to those who are not. What have you observed there?
So one of the biggest things is that the executive asks, what's the ROI? I've got the space allocated, which could be desk space and revenue generating space, but now you've taken off this room, you've blocked it off, you've made it a pretty color and made it peaceful, and there's nice, beautiful sounds going. But what's my ROI on this? And that's the problem that great companies have, is saying that if I'm doing employee well-being programs, how do I quantify that expense? But if they looked, the research has been out. Gallup's done research over and over and over again. One of the most highly recognized organizations. Go to Gallup's research, and they've shown that you get a return of $4 to $1 when you're spending it on employee well-being and psychological safety, but in the right way, not tick the box. Not we've got a salad bar in the canteen once a week and we have a little comfortable sitting area. No. Or we do yoga once a month. No, that's just tick the box.
Yeah.
What you need to do is find out, what do your employees need? I did last year when I was doing a lot of research to find out what was it that's missing in the corporate environment, because I've said employee well-being programs are broken. If they weren't broken, we wouldn't have the statistics that we have on suicide, quiet quitters,
right,
burnout in the workspace, the numbers, the heart attack victims in the workspace, all of these things. The statistics wouldn't be there if it was working. And I met this one very interesting HR executive from Uganda. And he went and worked for a petrochemical organization. I can't remember the name of it, doesn't matter, for this petrochemical company. And he saw that in the organization, thousands of employees, that there was a massive turnover of staff. There was an entire team purely there just bringing in new employees all the time. And he had a look at the numbers. And he went to the executives and he said, these numbers, the amount of turnover that we have of people resigning or just quitting or not coming back and in to replace them is costing the company a fortune. This cannot be the way. And they said, it's always that way in our industry. Says, it's always the way it's been.
Yep.
And he said, no, there's something wrong here. So he went and he asked one beautiful question of all the employees. And the question was, would you recommend this company as a preferred employer to your family members?
Yeah, that's a test question. Yeah.
If referral marketing is the best form of marketing for your company, that you've got a happy client who's referring their friends to you,
yep,
which is the best, you get the best ROI on it, you get longer term clients from it, it doesn't cost you anything to get them in because a happy customer brings a happy customer. Why should the same not be in place for employees?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he took the results to the executives and he showed them the results. The results that he showed them changed the entire paradigm of employee well-being and psychological safety in that company.
Yeah, brilliant.
Take a guess, what percentage of employees would recommend their employer to their friends and family? What percentage came out? What do you think?
10.
2.
I was being generous, obviously. Tim,
You
I'm gonna
are.
sorry.
You just think about it. You're a company, you're employing, it doesn't matter whether you've got 5 people or you've got 10,000 people, and only 2% of those would recommend to their friends and family to come and work there.
Yeah, not a
What
good sign.
story are they telling about your company around the fireplace and with drinks in the bar?
Yeah, and how is it they are even standing, with that kind of disdain for the company you're working for?
Right.
That's very deeply concerning. So Elena has a question or an observation, and I should just actually, I don't know if I can do this, just add I can add you, Elena. If you want me to do that, just give me a yes and I'll invite you in. But in the chat, it says, I specialize in change makers, a unique psychological profile defined in part by inability to separate work out because it all feels personal. I suspect both of you fall into this category. How does your insight adjust for that small group of the population that is extremely prone to burnout? Well, that's a good. I mean, I can tell you right now, I've burned out multiple times, and it's got to do with passion and care, and just being an idiot when it comes to trying to make a difference and not paying any attention to any of the signals. So noticing them, going, yeah, it's like they just drove by. Oh, look at that, but didn't register, and of course that comes out of what you experienced as well, Tim, with your own experience with burnout is that you don't know what the signals are, so you're not watching for them. So,
Oh, yes.
what's your answer to Elena's question?
Alrighty. So if I understand Elena correctly here, we're talking about work life. We're talking about work and home.
Yeah.
We're talking about the separation. And this is a very, very topical one at the moment when you consider, ever since the pandemic, about the amount of people who are either starting their own businesses from home, or they've now hybrid work environment, or they're working completely remote. So since 2018, I've been working in my own business in home. Now, where we are living now, it is a bedroom that I've converted in the house. 2 bedrooms away is my wife. The other side is my son. I walk out the door, it's the house. So how do you separate that? Well, one of the big things is that, and last year I was asked a number of times to speak on this, how do you get work-life balance? Sorry, there's no such thing. It doesn't exist. It's called life.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is no separate work. It is life. That is the way that the world has changed and is going to continue to evolve. The question is, how do you separate it? You see, before, and I remember this when I was working in hospitality, you leave work, you drive in your car, maybe you're spending time in traffic, there's 15, 20, 30 minutes between work and home. That's the separation time that by the time you get home, hopefully now you're the father or the mother at home. But when I walk out this door, I'm still working. So it's a very different discipline. I hope I'm reading into your question there. It's an extremely different discipline. And this is what I felt was a lot was missing in companies where they said to people, all right, after the pandemic, okay, business is up, we're going. You can choose, do you want to work from home and you're going to come back in the office, or you have to hybrid, or you have to do this. But they never went to train the people in how to control their time, how to differentiate, how to separate the time. So a huge problem came there because work now was taken to the dinner table.
Yeah, it's a continuous line. I'm going to yes, Elena's comment still sounds like you address people for all work is distinct. My own experience with burnout and my observation as someone that's energy sensitive is that burnout results when people give a lot with their heart, they care a lot, and there's not enough energetic return. So it's almost like you're giving into it's like a sucking environment. So you have to have work life. Well, maybe it's not no work life balance, but you have to be aware that you need to recharge your heart in some way. So you have to have the activities that are available to you. I mean, for me, it's walking in the bush, or the horses are, even shoveling manure. It's very mindful. I mean, let's face it. So just so it's fun, but it's it's that place where you give time to yourself. And so I think that's why that meditation room worked. Similarly, I mean, I did something with that when I was teaching school. I a bunch of grade 6 or 7 kids, and I put them all in the bush, singular sitting spots. And I had one kid come out and said, "Please, can I stay?" And I said, "No, we have to." But it was just the only place where there was some sanctuary from
Yeah.
the crowd. So um, I'm not quite sure what you mean, Elena, there, but it sounds like you dress people for whole work. It is whole. It is a whole life. If you've compartmentalized your life into work and home, you're living a very you're separated. There's a lot of separation there. There's a lot of detachment, which detachment can be work for you for sure. But separation can also be kind of tricky. It's one of those double-edged swords. Karen's got some comment here. Even a high referral score can mask big people and company health issue. Yeah, no kidding. How do you work with the complex system and multi-solve for issues like lack of speak up voice in an organization or worse, mechanical relationships? So the opposite of living systems that regenerate. So question for you, Tim, then is how do you deal with that fact that the mechanism for recording, scoring health in an organization does not actually reflect what's going on? There's that disconnect. Karen, I hope I've got that right. But it's that disconnect. How would you reconcile that?
Right. So it's a very complex question. And I'm going to be straight and honest with you. I'm not the person to answer that. Here's why. When I decided last year to go into corporates to deal with and help them with the high functioning state of burnout in the workspace, I was very focused and specific on bringing in easy to apply modalities, using breathwork as a specific one. But I left the environment. Here's why. It didn't fit my personal values. I did not want to personally be working back in a highly toxic workspace. And the people that were calling me into work were high toxic workspace environments. And I looked very quickly and realized, A, that's not my area of expertise, nor is it what I want to. So my answer is completely different from what you're asking here. If you're not comfortable, get the hell out.
Yeah. Any questions?
It's your life. It's
Yeah.
only a job. It's
Yeah.
your life. If you are not comfortable, if you are not functioning optimally, naturally, if you, as Dawna's mentioned it, in a place where your spiritual cup is getting filled and it's only being out and you have nothing to fill yourself, your heart and your mind, perhaps you're in the wrong space.
Yeah.
That was what I needed to do back in 2018 was get the hell out. I had sold my soul to the devil for 7 years. I sold it for a money check. And I was working for money because I thought that's what my family needed. But in the meantime, I was killing myself. I was disconnected. I was so far away from my natural state. And it didn't matter what I would have put into place there, it would have not worked. What I had to implement in place, it wouldn't have worked because I was in the wrong environment and needed to withdraw myself.
Yeah. And
Typically,
sorry.
very quickly, just to close on that thought, when people hit a state of true burnout, now I'm not talking about I am burning out. I never hit burnout. I left before that because I saw that if I stayed, it was going to be disaster. Although I didn't know what burnout was, I just knew it was not going to go well. But people who hit burnout, 25% of them end up hospitalized with chronic medical conditions that take 6 to 8 years to recover from.
Yeah.
They're in bed, they cannot get out, they're done. No energy, nothing. If you feel that you're heading there, you look at your life and why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah. That's the ultimate purpose question, I think. It just really grounds the work. Certainly purpose has been my beacon of light through a bunch of, a bunch of detours and interruptions and all of that. So, yeah. Tim, I want to thank you very much. I just checked to see if there are any more questions popping up in the chat. And I missed us saying goodbye to Elena, but I'll talk to her later.
Yeah, I love working with these topics. I love working with the topics too that I'll speak on what I know from personal experience, and I'm not going to go certain areas where I'm going to go, that's out of my area. You need to talk to somebody who's got that psychology background, working in the toxic work environment. It was just
Mhm.
a strategic decision on myself that that was not an area that I want to specialize in. Regenerative health and the individual within the organization is what I look at and saying, in the end,
Yeah.
it's your life, it's your journey. You are an individual in yourself.
In the Network First Manifest, or, community that I'm a part of, there's a project called Workplace Design, and one of the participants, they've developed 3 or 4 different scenarios for what design might look like to support people, or, I don't think they've done introvert and extrovert, but they've done other parts of it. So I mean, we're starting to get more attention on this, thankfully. When, but unfortunately, organizations have some sort of amnesia, so they tend to forget what are the best things that they've ever done, and then they wander off into dark territory, and it's hard to pull them back. So it's it's very anyway. Tim, I want to thank you very much for being on the program and for just joining us and sharing this information. And I also want to thank those of you who joined live to listen in and comment and observe. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Tim, for your more work, where would you tell people to go?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, quite active on LinkedIn. My company's name is Professional Pointer, but you can just look for Tim Wagner and Breathwork Alchemist. You pick it up on there.
Good name.
Otherwise, yeah, Tim at professionalpointer.com is my email address. So I'm sure, Dawna, you'll post that information there. And always open for a chat. First discussions are just about connecting and seeing how I can help you. And that's what my life has turned out all about. And it's been a phenomenal journey, and I'm enjoying this. And if I thought I was doing this a year ago, I can't imagine what else is coming. But I've learned to let go and enjoy the journey.
Yeah,
You know?
good decision. Thanks very much. Sorry, just trying to figure out what I'm oh, there it is.
Technology.